I wanted to start talking about where we are. I've been telling all of you we haven't got to use these chairs before. This is the first event that we've been able to hold in this space. This space embodies absolutely everything that we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to take this a little bit direction than I ever have. I've taught manifesting workshops under all sorts of different names for years. One of the things that I love about shaman work, it happens more and more all the time. I have a lovely outline here. You've got a handout thing there. I was sure that's what we were going to do. In fact, in my mind, I was like, I don't even need to go over it that much. I know that material. It's okay. You're sick. Just chill. You get up. You do the thing. It'll all be great. Get up this morning. I have all these new thoughts in my head about stuff that I want to tell you about. It's stuff that really matters. Some of it's not even on here. So if your outline doesn't follow where my meandering mind is going today, consider it a blessing. That's why you can take notes, all of that good stuff. The sanctuary part, the reason I say that we're going to start in this very room, this very space, is we've been down here about 4 months or going on 4 months. And so if we go back 6 or 7 months, and some of you are clients of mine, and I can have you as my eyewitnesses, I started telling everybody I was going to start church. I decided that because I didn't like where politics were going and everybody that doesn't agree with my kind of people was talking about religious freedoms, I was like, I need to get me some religious freedoms. I need to start a church. We can do things our way then. And I put a lot of energy into the idea of getting a church. I should have said a ministry because that's what I actually meant. We are in the church. After a couple months of that, the landlord called me. I mean, this is how you see it actually in action. I'm putting all this energy into, I'm going to have a church. We went to the point where we have the paperwork. We legitimately could file and create a church. We put that much energy into it. We created a placeholder, something we'll talk about in a minute. We put a lot of energy into it. And then the landlord called me and said, do you want the church space? That was the exact wording of the conversation. And I'm like, it's only everything I've said for the past ever, and not just that active period. Anybody that knows, Jan's worked alongside me in all of this for a very long time. I've always been about a center, a church, a space, carrying on from Hilltop, if any of you have ever read my bio, into the future, what we're doing, all of that sort of stuff. And we're in a very active manifesting energy down here anyway, because we've got people that are forming their careers, doing all the stuff to actually make a difference in people's lives, all of that. We've got a cool event. I'll have a date up on the website before too long. We're getting ready to work with Rescue One and have a dog adoption day out of this very room, because we're going to manifest some homes for some puppies, because that's the right thing to do in the world. And so manifesting comes in all sorts of forms and shapes and means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. In the first example, other than the church, this shirt, and if you didn't catch it, the pants, corduroy. The reason that I would even start there in a manifesting workshop, if we could get this one little piece, you won't need anything else I say today. If you can take this and just really blow it up gigantic, it'll change everything. Manifesting isn't creating something that doesn't exist. Manifesting is an extension of your expression. I manifested this outfit. I did all of the things necessary for this outfit to be here. I put it on, and I'm making it an expression of myself. Some people would not like this shirt. Some people would not feel comfortable in the shirt. Some people would never pick this shirt. Somebody's going to think that's the ugliest damn shirt they've ever seen in their life. All of those are different expressions and relationships to that. But me being loud, as I tend to be, not just in volume, I'm loud in everything I do. That's why I got so damn sick. I don't know how to do anything that size. Everything being to that extreme, your expression is a part of who you are. So there are a lot of self-help books that have been through the years, and I'll apologize for this ahead of time. I'm going to use money as an example in manifesting a lot, because it's something we can all relate to, and it's something that regardless of if you got a bunch of money or you don't have money, at least you appreciate what a dollar is, and you can understand it as a concept, a solid item to be able to manifest. We're going to get into where manifesting shouldn't just be limited to physical objects or something like that, but it's going to be a very super easy example to use. And so if you think about the idea of your expression being what you're manifesting into the world, a lot of those self-help books would say, think yourself rich. And the entire concept of the book would be act like you're rich. And if you listen to Oprah or some of the people that are very big into the gratitude journals, let's just start off the workshop with a pet peeve of mine. Gratitude journals have their place, and they're wonderful. They're an amazing thing. Except that most people don't keep gratitude journals. They keep wish lists that they think if they say the right words, they're going to get the thing they wrote in the book. That's not a gratitude journal. Gratitude is thankful for what you already have, not the idea of I'm going to be thankful for what I'm going to receive. That is an act in manifesting. And I don't think there's anything wrong. We're doing a workshop on manifesting. I'm not anti-manifesting. But I think gratitude should be gratitude. Be thankful for things. So when we get into this idea, all those people that say, think your way there, do all of this, they're not telling you the big secret of redirecting energy. If we get down to the idea that absolutely everything is energy, this outfit is energy, money is energy, love is energy, all the things we could possibly experience or want to experience or have as a part of our life, all the things are just energy. And so we're not trying to create an energy that doesn't exist. Like, one of the greatest things you'll ever do is decide you're not that special. You didn't think of the one thing that nobody else has ever thought of. You don't want the one thing that nobody's ever wanted before. You're not that unique. The thing you want, thousands of people have already had it. And that's not to make you feel bad that you didn't get it. It's to make you realize, oh, it exists. Why am I trying to create something out of nothing? Why do I think I have to conjure this out of the ether somewhere? I just have to get it to present itself in my life. I'm not actually manifesting it. I'm drawing it into my field of expression. I bought the shirt, then I was able to wear it. Able to bring that idea into a part of your being. There's a story from Deepak Chopra. He's working on like $1 million deal for this book thing or whatever, and he actually needs $1 million. And his assistant says to him, where is that money going to come from? This is the coolest line in the entire world. Deepak goes, well, wherever it is right now, that's where the money will come from. That money exists somewhere. Where it will come from is wherever it happens to be sitting right now. You want love in your life and you're alone, you don't have somebody, you're not creating someone in a test tube and causing them to come into being out of nowhere. You're bringing them into your field of vision, aligning your energy with theirs, trying to get those things to intersect in a certain way. That's all we're talking about with manifesting. My brother, by comparison, you would think is not a spiritual person at all. Listen to him for 10 minutes and you realize that he's very big into it. He just doesn't want to claim anything. He will yell how much of an atheist he is, and then he'll lay down some big spiritual truths. He would always ask my mother and I, because she's the one who got me into it, why we're trying so hard to change reality. That was his big deal. He's like, why are you working so hard on changing reality? And if you'd ever ask him the follow-up question, you go, why don't you just place your consciousness in one where things are the way you want it to be anyway? There's all sorts of realities. And if you get into modern day quantum theory, we're going to get very nerdy for a minute. If you get into string theory, if you get into quantum mechanics, quantum universes, parallel realities, all this sort of stuff, the idea is that everything does exist. Every permutation of everything does exist. Everything all at once, all the time. Boom. Everything. And so trying to change one particular reality is kind of a wasted endeavor. You should really just set your focus on the one that's the way that you want it to be anyway. I think that that's what we do through these things, but I think it's good to have that understanding. I think on the surface of it, it looks exactly the same. I was laughing just before we got started thinking that we should just really call this a Magic 101 workshop, because that's what it always ends up looking like on the surface of it. And I'm a shaman. I've been asked to be the high priest of a coven of witches at one point. I have nothing wrong with the word magic or any of those words that I just said. There are good and bad versions of all of those things, just like everything in the world. But magic and science aren't meant to be separate, really. The idea of magical practices, or the idea of a spell, or the idea of manifesting something, we're not trying to go outside of the natural laws of physics. That's what I'm saying, being very nerdy. If you read about Causality, where the focus is, determines where the object ends up being placed in the field of vision. There are all sorts of interesting scientific experiments you should get into. Get lost in YouTube sometime. And they'll break down in quantum mechanics how a lot of the stuff we talk about in metaphysics, putting this energy out there, aligns with this, and your perception creates your reality. And that's really what we're talking about here. And so when we get down to this, one of the most foundational, fundamental things we have to get to is that idea that everything is energy. Now, I was brought up with that from a very early age. Now, we didn't mean any of that quantum stuff. Nobody had those words then. It was just everything's energy, and we were kind of airy-fairy about the whole thing. And it was, oh, the energy of the crystal, and oh, the energy of this, and oh, the energy of that. And the reason that I make fun of it, and I take that very seriously, is because I believe in every bit of that. I know a lot of people that take that way too far. I know a lot of people that have the extreme sensitivity, but they're always the one that you'll see in the middle of the psychic fair in the room full of like 3,000 crystals, talking about how they're too sensitive to crystals. I'm like, why are you in this room? You knew that's what they were going to have here. If that sort of thing bothers you, why are you there? It's along the same idea of why I get grouchy about empathy. I'll hear a lot of people saying, oh, I'm an empath and I suffer so much from it. I pick up everybody's negative stuff. I'm like, get around some happy people. If you're an empath and you pick up people's feelings, go somewhere where people are happy. Pick up some of that good stuff. I think when we get to where we're thinking everything's energy, and I'm making those silly references, that's what I mean. We need to start seeing our world as energy. If I'm feeling bad, what is the energy of that feel bad? What is the energy that would feel good? How do I begin to infuse that positive energy into my life, getting that negative energy out of it, so I actually get to that feel-good space that's there? This is living in awareness. This is just conscious living. This is just practicing living in the now, fully present. When we get into all of that, when we start taking charge of that, when we think about what we wear and how we fix our hair and the way that what car we drive or the way we decorate our house or any of those things, we start seeing those as energetic extensions of ourselves, realizing that you've already manifested. Think about your living room. I'm pretty sure none of our living rooms look the same. Doesn't it have a specific feel? And when you go to somebody else's house, doesn't it have a specific feel? I always love the example because everybody can get there right then. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Can't you smell your grandmother's house? Don't you know exactly what your grandmother's house feels like, smells like? Probably what you're going to have for supper. And that is an energy that she created by expressing herself out into that space. So when we're talking about manifesting our reality, our everyday experiences out in the world, we want to extend it beyond interior decorating. Great. All we have to do is broaden our borders. All we have to do is realize that our area of influence is much bigger than just the stuff we can physically put our hands on, move around. Buy this at the store, hang it up on that wall. We can expand that energy out in a lot of ways. One of the things that we are going to talk about is vibrational integrity. If you've ever been around me, you've heard me talk about this concept anyway. It's the foundation of everything I do and everything I believe in. Vibrational integrity is about getting what you think, what you say, what you do, and what you believe all in alignment. Now, it seems like I just jumped from saying we're talking magic and shamanism all the way over to these things. If you can get your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your beliefs all in line, then you're a freaking magician. You are practicing magic at a very high level, because that's a thing that doesn't happen very often. We all have to get, and this is where it's supposed to be one of those uplifting, empowering workshops, and then the thing I'm going to say next. We all have to quit lying to ourselves. We all have to get out of the stupid story that we tell in our head instead of the reality that's going on, because you can't change reality until you put your hand on it. You cannot change the thing so long as you're not living with what it really is. And that's where we will say something's a certain way. We might even act like it's a certain way. We might even let ourselves feel in a certain way. We don't think that way about it. Or we'll allow ourselves to get all those other things in line, but there's a deep core rooted belief from childhood. You know, I have worked on myself, I got the degree, I deserve the big job, I deserve the income, I feel good about myself, I'm talking it. I have even sent my resume out to my top 10 favorite places I want to be there. And then somewhere buried in the back of your head is that you don't deserve it because somebody told you that when you were 3 for some reason. That belief is conflicting with all of it. And it's only when we're willing to dig in. A lot of people think shamanism is, you know, burn incense and meditate and do all sorts of fun things and beat a drum and all that, which it is all of that. But it's also being prepared to look at the hard stuff, like really dig into yourself and go, okay, where am I not in line with myself? What one of those things isn't matching the other ones? Where am I not in vibrational integrity? And when we figure out where we're out of sync with that, we really begin to understand why we do a lot of the things we do. We'll notice the self-sabotage. We'll notice the thing that we just won't let ourselves have. You know, the universe is like, here's everything you wanted. It's like, I don't know, this church, I started with that. If it wasn't for a friend of mine named Ann Mills, we would not be down here. We're upstairs. Landlord calls. Do you want the church? You know, the thing I'd been saying and putting energy into that I wanted. Do you want this? How much? He tells me, I'm like, no, I can't afford it. And one day after, or in the middle of open studio class, she goes, do you still have the key for downstairs? Yeah. Can I borrow it? She comes down and looks at it. She hadn't seen it. I hadn't let anybody else see it. She messaged me, I'm going to need to see you in the sanctuary after class. I get called to church. I want you to know that triggered something inside of me. She sits down with a piece of paper. She's not even a part of the business. Sits down and writes out, if you raise rent here, this, if you do that, blah, blah, blah. Why do you mean you can't afford it? Why don't you do the thing? And that's when I decided we were actually going to move down here. And it was really the universe doubling back around. I was lucky. The universe was like, hey, dumbass, you didn't get it. We're giving you the thing. Oh, you're still not getting it. Ann, would you please talk to him? This is exactly what ends up happening. Then I got to do that with everybody else to get them on board. And here we are. Some part of me didn't think we could do it. I had to have somebody spell out to me on a piece of paper my own figures to show to me that I could do the thing, because somewhere, we grew up poor. We grew up without money. We grew up without thinking opportunistically. We didn't think about you create things. We didn't think about you do the thing. My entire family, I was thinking about this earlier, my brother and I would have that talk in the trailer back in Nixa, and we would talk about, if you just had $1 million, you would never have to do anything again. You could just live off the interest of that money. Now, when we were young, and the income that my family had, that was true. The regular return of interest at that time, it was a couple $1,000s a month. It was like not anything significant. I'm talking high-end payback. We thought that was everything in the world. That's perspective. That still stops me from thinking, oh, I can do the big thing. We've been down here 4 months. I've told Jan it goes in layers, like everything does. There are times I walk in here, I'm like, oh yeah, this is my place. How'd that happen? Not even emotionally connecting with it fully at that point, because there's that part that's in the back there. There's that little voice that's like, nope. I think all of us have that character. They'll be like, now I'm going to do the thing. And the little guy goes, I'll read from the book of why you can't. And it just starts in. Whatever it is, whatever fear, insecurity, doubt, programming, blueprinting, society, whatever the challenge is in that moment. And so what we've got to start doing is not only getting honest with ourselves and rewriting that, redirecting all of that. We've got to get ourselves to the point where we not only believe that we're worthy. Like, I would like to do an entire workshop on this next little snippet. Why the hell are we stopping at worthy? Why have we all set the bar? We hear it everywhere. It's what everybody talks about. I just wish I felt worthy. Are you kidding me? That's what you wish? If you're willing to stop at feeling worthy, the bare freaking minimum, if your whole thing is, well, you don't absolutely suck and we don't hate you, if that's good enough for you, dial up your game, bitches. Come on, there's a thing here. I mean, think about what I'm saying. I just want to feel worthy. There is I wish I could remember exactly where this happened. You know how sometimes you remember the event, but you can't place the situation? This woman sincerely looked me in the eye and said, "But honey, you fall short of the glory of the Lord." I didn't even take a breath. I look at her, I go, "Bitch, I am the glory of the Lord. What are you talking about?" And it was automatic. It was right there. And that's why in my darkest moments, I have them just like everybody else, in my darkest moments when people are talking about feeling worthy or feeling good enough, or I just wish anybody thought anything about me, these minimalistic base things. Get a puppy. They will give you so much more than even that. And we're willing to settle for that level of things. This is why we don't have the big stuff. This is why we don't have the amazing stuff. This is why, I don't care if you live in the biggest, fanciest house on the block. This is why you don't have the thing you want. Your thing might not be external. It might be in here. But until we get to the point where we're not thinking about being good enough. This brings me to one of my other ones. I love tearing down stuff. I get so irritated by this because it is so popular. If you knew how many people have gotten rich, stinking rich, off of this concept, intentions. I get so annoyed by the word intentions. Intentions don't mean jack. Intentions do not do anything. I am intending to set this building on fire right now. Nothing happens. There is nothing. One of you intends to leave. How many people still sitting here? Same number of people. Until somebody does something, doesn't happen. There is nothing going on. Intentions don't mean anything. Intention means I'd like it if. Well, okay, great. That's not going to do anything. Expectations. This is my big deal. Expectation changes everything. I love, you're going to be my exception, I love having a room full of women and being able to say this because it really drives the point home in a great way. A woman who intends to have a child, very different than a woman who's expecting a baby. Totally different vibe. I intend to. When? Well, whenever it happens. It's an ambiguous thing. It doesn't exist yet. They're not talking about real. They're speaking purely conceptually. The intention is creating the idea of something. The expectation, we're starting a registry and we're telling people we want diapers and formula. We're moving into action. We know that it's going to happen. And we even start getting a timeline in mind. Now, I'm no expert on these matters, but I think there's actually a little variance about how long a woman can carry a child. We start nailing it down to an exact day and we create an expectation. We decide there's a due date. When's the last time you decided there's a due date on the things you're trying to create? When's the last time you put a due date on your expectations? When is the last time that you gave it a worthy gestation period? We're not expecting like this. But no, that'd be long enough for it to happen, and I expect it to. Expectation is one of the biggest things in the world. A lot of you have heard me talk about the motorcycles. I come from a family into Harleys. I was into Harleys for a while. I would still be into Harleys, except I'm not into dumbass drivers. I've never felt fearful for my own self. Don't trust none of you all, and you guys are the good ones. People out there, don't trust any of them at all. People try to kill you. They don't even apologize. Every motorcycle, when I say every motorcycle, I have owned 4 of them. Every one of them started with me saying to the universe, "Where's my motorcycle?" The first one was a Honda. The second one, seriously, put it in my day planner, my phone. Every day when I look at my phone, oh yeah, where's my Harley? That is just how reverent, that's how special, that's how, oh please, if I'm worthy, where is it? I expect it. There's no reason I shouldn't have it. This is one of the craziest things. I told you, I grew up poor, all of that sort of stuff. I don't know how my mother pulled this off. She should get some sort of accommodation. Well, I can give you a story how she did it. She always made us feel like we deserved that bare minimum worthy thing. That wasn't a part of it. We could be scrapping together whatever supper was, and we felt like we owned the world. We never realized until we were older really how we had grown up. I had a really good friend that always tells a story, the same boat we were sharing one day. She goes, "Oh dude, I've got you beat. Our neighbor had an apple tree." And I loved it because she thought that was the whole story. Neighbor had an apple tree, we were good. Her mother would get up when they didn't have food. She would get up before everybody else. sneak into the neighbor's yard, pick a bunch of apples, come home and bake an apple pie, because you can actually bake an apple pie pretty cheap if the apples are free. And the kids got to have apple pie for breakfast. They thought they were kings. They thought they were doing absolutely wonderful. We get pie for breakfast? How bad can life be? And they would go on with this. The one that my mom, she was raising both of us by herself. As a cashier at a Ramey's in Nixa, put it all in perspective. And I think my dad paid $50 in child support my entire life. And so she's doing all this on her own. I remember when she couldn't pay bills, because she'd talk about it openly. Mom's always been very expressive. She would take us to Kmart, and we would get, it was either $3 or $5 for a pair of kids' tennis shoes. They would hold up for about 6 months. These cheap little tennis shoes. But my brother and I would be just short of a fashion show, stomping around that trailer house with our new shoes, talking about how we got our stuff, look at our new thing, all of this sort of stuff. And she would turn all of it into, it's fun, it's cool, it's good, this is the way we do it, it's our thing, this is, good mom stuff. But also master manifester, because nobody ever helped her, and somehow the money showed up to pay all those bills. She managed to get everything done. And so later when we were talking about this in life, because we've always had a great open communication, I was like, how did you know to do that? And she goes, I didn't. She said, I didn't know what I was doing at all. She said, we got into all this stuff, and I started reading all these books, and they started telling me to do the stuff that I was already doing. And she had that moment of, I didn't think I knew anything. I thought I was stupid. I didn't think I knew, what I was doing at all. And then she's reading in these books telling me the exact same thing that she should do. There's another great one that she did one year. We were older at this point. It was coming up on, it would have been October, maybe, November, something like that. And we're coming up on Christmas, and we were broke. We were broke. And she had gone to the library and gotten this construction paper diagram so she could make a pyramid. And she got this really long, wordy affirmation about abundance. And she wrote herself a check for $1,000 and signed it God, the Universal Banker. And she puts it all in this pyramid, and then once a day she would open it up and she would read the thing out loud, and she would show us the check and all this, and she'd put it back in there. And she was adamant, she was militant about it from that moment on. You either didn't talk about it, or if somebody mentioned it, somebody come in the house, what's with the pyramid? All she would say is, not my problem, it's in God's hands now. That was her whole thing. She'd done her thing. It's in the pyramid, not my thing. I've turned it over. My grandfather usually, he has 8 kids, combined married. He usually gave each of them $20 in a card for Christmas. That was the normal thing. Wrote each one of them a check for $1,000 that year. Not just gave them the money, not just the amount, not just mom, all of them in a check form, in the exact figure, the shape, everything. It was like we had taken the thing out of the pyramid and he had handed it to her with his name at the bottom instead of Universal Banker. All of that is because she had finally gotten all of that vibrational integrity to align. She'd gotten all of those parts to line up. And what I love about it is if you're paying attention, part of it was she would not talk about part of it. She instinctually knew that she'd screw it up if she talked about it. She didn't know how to talk positive about money. She didn't know how to talk positive about manifestation. She didn't know how to talk about being worthy and deserving. That's part she didn't know how to do. She knew how to feel it. She knew how to think it. She knew how to take an action, write down a piece of paper, all that sort of stuff. She didn't know how to talk it right because she never had that opportunity to talk it right. So she just shut up. Equally good. One of the best things you can ever do is just start eliminating the negative talk that says you are not worthy. And everybody's like, well, how do you do that? You correct yourself like a damn child. When you say it, you slap the back of your hand and you tell yourself never to say that again. You say something out loud, you say out loud that, no, what I meant to say was, because what I actually believe is. You say it internally, go and look in the mirror, look yourself dead in the eye in the mirror, and tell yourself what you actually meant to say. Because I guarantee you our inner and outer dialogue is the one that's killing most of us. It's usually a reflection of the beliefs, to be fair. When we get into the idea of creating your own reality, I love that phrase because it's just ridiculous. You can't create your own reality. You don't get to live in this little pocket where it's just you. If we all actually create our own reality, I'm a chaos person. I would actually enjoy this for maybe like an afternoon, but man, I'd even get tired of it. 10 people here. Imagine that every single one of us creates our own reality. We would be bumper cars slamming into each other. All 4 of us pull up to an intersection at once and we're creating our own reality. Everybody goes first. Pile up. Oh, you think you're the pretty one? No, it's my reality. I'm the pretty one. I mean, we're into troubled waters immediately. So the reality is that we co-create this. We create it by the energy that you express. We're going to be back to that expression. We create it by what we're putting out there, what we're imprinting into this world, what we're trying to send out instead of just what we're absorbing. And the reason that matters, I think that most people are unconsciously manifesting and creating their entire reality. They're making their entire experience because they're receiving the input. Society tells them they're not good enough. They think, oh, I'm not good enough. And their life manifests situation after situation where they're made to feel not good enough. And that's because they're taking in the imprint of everything that's around them. When you're a child, you live your parents' life. Everybody thinks it's because they're the adults, they're in control, they have the money. Because their energy's the loud one. It's the dominant one. If you ever meet somebody with a very boisterous newborn, they will tell you the child runs the house because its energy is bigger than theirs. And you'll see the struggle between parents and kids, their entire evolution of who has control of the house, who has control of the energy, who has control of the dynamic, which one has the bigger presence. And so when we're little, we usually take in that stuff. We're taking in the blueprint, the surroundings, the societal, financial, all the things. We're taking all that in and we begin to create just exactly what we've always had before. That's where generational poverty comes from. That's where generational wealth comes from. That's where opportunity comes from. That's where entire groups of people look a certain way because they're attracted to people that look that certain way. And we begin to create an entire society. Well, if we talk about the entire fabric of our society, we're talking about the ability to manifest because this stuff didn't just come out of nowhere. We've all made it in our co-creational effort. All the stuff that we've collectively put together has gone into that creation. And that's why I talk about the difference. We talk about intentions versus expectations. If we build on that, an intention would be the equivalent of a thought. Like, I think everybody in here, if you're going to come to a workshop like this, I'm assuming you're going to agree with the idea that thoughts create reality. I don't actually believe that. I think that they nudge it a bit. I don't think that they change reality at all. I think our emotions change reality to a giant degree. Think about next time you're very emotionally upset about something, flat freaking coming unglued, and somebody looks at you and says something that's absolute common sense, reality-based fact. Piss off, I don't want to hear it. I'm in the middle of having a meltdown because the emotions are controlling my reality. We will all decide, I am not going to do the bad habit ever again. But our emotional self wants the thing. And who wins? The emotion. Because it's much, much bigger. It's giant. Here's your thought. Here's your emotion. And that's why it is so hard to reason and logic and talk yourself out of an emotional moment, because the emotion is just bigger. It's meant to be bigger. It's releasing adrenaline and all sorts of stuff. You can sit there and think, adrenaline engaged, nothing happens. You cannot think yourself into having an adrenaline spike. There's all kinds of emotions that'll trigger one though. And you're suddenly full of juice and this energy and this power and this thing, and you can lift the Volkswagen off of your child, and it's all sorts of amazing things. So we've got to get to the point where we begin to harness those emotions. And one of the things I like to talk about in this is the idea of borrowing an emotion, because it's really hard to get yourself worked up in the moment to feel a certain kind of way about something. It's the, I feel like one of these days I'm going to get a letter from Oprah, because I talk about her all the time. Everybody that tells you that, all you have to do is think a certain way and you'll get there, are the ones that are usually already there. I can keep a pretty decent gratitude journal if I'm worth $5 billion and somebody made me macaroni and cheese for breakfast. I promise I'll be thankful. It's not that hard when you live in abundance. When you can get to the point where you have an emotional connection, when you get to wealth, when you get to opportunity, when you get to emotionally satisfied, not everything's material, when you hit certain points of things, then you don't go back. There's no way that you're going to feel that in a lesser capacity. That's not going to ring the bell. You've had the experience. When you haven't had the experience, you have to borrow the emotion. You have to go somewhere to that point where you felt kind of the way you want to feel. So when we're talking about what you're wanting to manifest, you've got to dig into it and ask yourself, why do I want it? What is the part of it that matters? Is it the actual thing? Is it the status that goes with it? Is it an emotion that it satisfies? Does it cure some ache from my childhood or my past? What does it give to me? Why the hell do I want it anyway? Why is this the thing that I'm taking my energy and trying to manifest? Why do I even want it? What is the importance of it? Because when you get that, then you know the type of emotion to borrow. Because you're going to think about something that's there. If you want to feel like there's an actual physical object, you want the new house. And you remember when you were a kid, when you got that brand new bike at Christmas was the one that you wanted. It felt like getting the thing. It was special. It was yours. It didn't belong to anybody else. It was just for you. Those are a lot of different reasons that I listed that you might have wanted that. You figure out which one it is and you can borrow that emotion. I feel like an 8-year-old that got my bicycle. And I'm going to tack that on to the expectation, because I've already worked through the thoughts and the words and all this sort of stuff, about that house that I want, and I'm tying the feeling that I had, the satisfaction, and the reason that it felt good. Not just, oh, it felt good. Everything, get something new, it feels good. Why does it feel good? Grab hold of that part of the emotion, tack it over onto this thing, and the universe is like, oh, we get it now. We didn't understand when you were trying to think it. Your thoughts are confusing. We know what you mean emotionally. We know what that feeling is. You want to feel the way you did then? Great, we're the universe. We work on emotions. So do you. I think that one of the biggest challenges, it sucked for me because you may not have noticed, but I tend to be rather like this most of the time. The emotions that go behind that, a lot. To be able to be sensitive enough to talk to people about their emotional things in that room without them volunteering information. Imagine how sensitive I am about my own stuff. Basket case up here. But getting into the idea of being able to feel and tap into those things, and why do I want it, and what is the energy behind that, I think that's one of the reasons I'm good at manifesting. Because even though we didn't have a lot of stuff growing up, we had a lot of the emotions, we had a lot of the feelings, we had a lot of that, my mother would make things seem like it was amazing, this thing that happened to us, and other people would have been ashamed in the moment. And so we had all of that energy, and I'm able to roll that into anything that I put myself into. Okay, let's make it awesome, because we can make nothing awesome. And it allows me to create a lot of things on a lot of levels out of nowhere. When you begin to borrow those emotions, when you're reaching for the one to borrow, when you're trying to find the thing that matters to you, thinking about the way that you process your emotions is huge. Most of us are afraid of our emotions, and they're our only true superpower. You are not gifted with touch and scent and hearing and sight and taste and all of these very, very, very complex emotions. And you're supposed to figure out how to ignore them. I am like so the opposite of most spiritual people in my circles. Everybody there is like, find center, learn to detach from your emotions, learn to let them go. Hell no, grab hold of those things. That's what they're for. They're gonna keep coming up. Until you make friends with them, they're gonna have their way with you. You may as well get to where you're friends with your emotions, and then you can all sit down and have pretty decent time with one another, even the bad ones. You know what really feels bad? The amount of effort it takes to hold something just this far away from you. Because that's as far as you can push it away from you. You can hold it out here so it's not right here. But you can't get rid of it. You may as well just grab it and pull it in and take a look at it. Betty, all those years ago at Hilltop, she'd look at you and be really emotional about something, some big situation going on. She'd look at you and go, now honey, that's one of those karma apples. Not caramel, karma. And she'd tell you, take a big bite. Whatever's there, just deal with it. Get into it, dig in. Asking yourself why you want what you want will begin to change your entire world. Figuring out why you do the things that you want to do. Change your entire world. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people who say that they want the new fancy car don't give a shit about a car. They want the way people will look at them while they're driving that car. And until they're honest with that, they'll never feel satisfied even if they get the car, because they're trying to satisfy the wrong emotion. They're trying to satisfy the wrong thing. They're trying to ring a bell that isn't the one that is begging to be rung. You know, I want a relationship in my life. Well, now that's got a whole lot of definitions. I shouldn't have to tell you to do better than just a relationship in the way you word things. But why do you want one? And until you know why you want that relationship, you won't know what you want in a partner. Well, I want them to be like this, 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 and this. And it's always the top 10 list, you know, jawline you can grate cheese on or whatever, and abs, and, you know, their great sense of humor. They've got to make me laugh. Everybody has this list of shit they want. Are they bothering to ask themselves what they need? Are they bothering to really ask, why do I want that person? What would that person give to me? Anybody who ever gets into the inner circle, I'm looking at Jan because she's one of the only people that ever do. You get to hang out around me and Scott, and your first thought will be, why the hell are they even together? We're not lovey-dovey, we're not warm and fuzzy, we're not cuddly, we're not, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 5 hours, I've got to give you a hug and a kiss and tell you how much I love you. We are not those people, and we're never going to be. We are very independent, we do our own thing, and yet, the reason nobody understands it is nobody is either one of us. We know why we want the other one. We know what the thing is. We know what's behind all of it. We know why we're together. We know why we want to be together. Everybody else compares it to the list of whatever's on Match.com that's supposed to make a perfect relationship, and we're like, oh, we don't care about any of that. Because we both ask the question, what do we actually want? And when we found somebody that was that thing, we're like, oh, okay, fine. Got it. Here we are. And so asking yourself those driving motivational things back behind is going to do more in creating your future than anything else ever is. Sounds like Self-Help 101, doesn't it? If you actually look at your past and heal it, your future gets a whole lot better. Brilliant. Now, there's a lot we can do to begin to influence that and change that. A lot of things that we can do. When we get into I want to run through these real quick because it'll help us with our worksheet later. We're talking about thoughts, words, actions, beliefs, and you'll see this actually on your sheet there. The what you think, every thought goes into the collective, creates reality. That's what I mean about we don't just create reality, we put it together. Conscious thoughts, subconscious thoughts are the big ones that we're looking at. And so getting to the point where we don't think that we're going to just suddenly delete the file and quit saying the bad stuff in our mind, we have to actually overwrite the program. One of the best things you will ever do, think about what I said about manifesting the Harley. I would say out loud, where is my Harley? Said it out loud. I'm very auditory. I'm a loud person. I'm not going to be, could I please have the thing? What? I'm going to put that energy out there big. I'm going to be very verbal about it. You'll notice I'm surrounded by sound tools because it's not me being loud. I want to hit something that's loud. And so you've got to think about how do you actually express out into the world. And so in those inner thoughts, you should start saying, man, I'm good enough. Not only am I worthy, I'm freaking amazing. Universe, you're slacking because I'm so amazing. You should be funneling all sorts of stuff into my world. This will sound, judge me, go ahead, judge me, I won't mind. I actually live in a state where I believe that people should be doing stuff for me all the time. I believe people should be giving me stuff all the time. I give people stuff all the time. I do stuff for people all the time. I'm not saying it that way. Freely I give, freely I receive. I'll give you the shirt. I'm done. I look for opportunity everywhere. I talk about what I want everywhere I go. Go to lunch, I might tell the waitress what I'm working on. Let me give you a really good example of why that's a brilliant thing to do. Several years ago, before, well, it would have been 14 years ago, we were at the last house that Scott and I ever rented. And I'd said, hon, write down on a piece of paper everything you want in a house. I'm going to manifest us a house. He laughed. He said, you remember what you do for a living. Keep in mind, no Sage Studio at this point. Me working out of the spare room of the house. Me going to a banker and saying, hi, I'm a self-employed psychic. Will you give me a loan with my absolute invisible credit score because it's so low? Not going to happen. So he's just like, that's cute, hon. Yeah, whatever. I'll write down what I want. We had group then. We would have 15 to 20 people show up. We had this giant room in the back of that rental house. And we would meditate, and I would teach chakras, and all the stuff that we do here, but, you know, a little bitty baby version. And it happened to be Thanksgiving, so we're talking gratitude. And I asked everybody to stand up one at a time and say how thankful that they were the next meeting would be in my new house. State it emphatically, say it happily, say it like you mean it, believe it. We'll all be happy when we can change new house. One of those ladies went home and told her husband. He was a flooring guy. He called his friend who was a contractor. That contractor had just taken a house in Republic as payment for a house that he was building for a young couple. And didn't want to have to do anything to it to put it on the market. So the next day I got a call from a guy named Dan that I didn't know asking me if I wanted the house. I said, sure. He said, would you like to see it? Sure. We go, there's a black cat in the driveway. I have a Black Panther totem. The minute we pulled out, I was like, yep, that's it. We'll take it. Here's exactly how the conversation went. He goes, so how do you want to finance this? I said, you're going to have to finance it, dude. I don't have any money. So I got no credit. I'm a self-employed psychic shaman. I am not the guy you want to sell the house to. You want to sell me your house? He said, wow, you're incredibly honest. And he wrote us a contract for deed. And 7 years later, when we actually put it over into our name, he gave us all the equity that we'd paid all those years. Unheard of. Every time somebody says, why do you live in Republic? That's where the house manifested. That wasn't the part that mattered to me. It didn't matter to me where the house was. In fact, we've outgrown it by this point, but every single thing that we put on that list, every single thing that was on that piece of paper is in that house. Every bit of it. And by telling people what I wanted, it created opportunity. By expecting it to happen, the opportunity was there. And by taking the action, I met the guy. I met him knowing I didn't have any credit or money or anything. I didn't care. I decided I was buying a house. It was not long after that I looked at Scott, who was finally starting to catch on how things work. I said, I'm going to open a yoga studio. He learned to put the second part of the sentence on. He goes, you know we don't have any money, right? And he goes, it'll be fun to see how you do it. Welcome to the present day. Every step along the way has been getting what I think, what I say, what I do, what I believe, the expectation, checking that part of me that thinks I'm not deserving, not worthy, all of that sort of stuff. Figuring out why I want it. That was a big one. Why would somebody want all this? Give me a choice, I am a recluse. Me, my dogs, my bird, I'm fine. Why would I want all of this? I've wanted it forever. I had people in my life when I was very young that helped me find spirit and taught me how to become the person that I am today. And I always thought I wanted that in a bigger version. I wanted that in a way that would reach more people. And I didn't want it in my living room. And that's how all of this came into being. So you get those words going. Now that's the inner. On the outer, your homework assignment, first homework assignment of the day. I want you to find 3 people that actually matter to you and tell them just exactly what you're worth. Not ugly, not bad, not dramatic. We're not having a moment. I want you to find somebody and look at them and go, I have figured out that I am worth something. I am funny. I give a lot. I do a lot. I don't want it to turn into I do a lot for you and you don't do it for me. That's not the exercise. That's not the homework. Please understand the assignment. Finding somebody, someplace. Find somebody safe. I mean, do you hear what I'm saying? Find somebody safe that you can go to and you can say, I actually think I help people. I'm not worried about their response. I mean, dear God, if you can't choose well enough that you get a decent response from that, try again. But getting to where you can say it, getting to where you can actually look at somebody and say, wow, I really love people and I give a lot of myself and that makes me a good person. Getting to where you can claim your worth. Say what's good about you. Say why you deserve things. We ask why you want what you want. Decide why you deserve it. I mean, other than the fact that you're a soul, which is a part of God, but we'll save that for a whole other workshop if we've got to explain that one. Like you're part of the universe. You're made the same thing as the entire universe. You deserve as much as anything else in all of creation. You should be able to say that to people. Seriously, my mother did bring me up with that. She was always really good about, we were never better than anybody else. Never, I can't remember a time my mother ever looked down on somebody. Seriously. She might talk about somebody that was in a less fortunate state or in a poor choice moment or something like that, but would never talk down about them. But never, ever, ever would she speak about us in a downtrodden way. At all. It was all of us very uplifting, very positive, that self-image. Those are getting your thoughts right internally, externally. That outward dialogue goes along with what you say. What you believe, now that's a tough one. Going into what you believe really requires doing some of that inner child work. It requires doing some of that, how did I get here? And I know I said it about holding the emotions out here a minute ago, and I know this doesn't seem like what we talk about normally in a manifesting workshop, but it's the stuff that makes it actually work. Make friends with your emotions, make friends with your demons. Figure out what happened in your childhood. I will tell you, those of you who've been to my workshops won't be surprised with my example. It's one that's there. And you're going to have to trust me on this, of the evolution of it, because the way I am now is not where I was with this for a long time. 2 days ago, maybe 3, I'd have to check my phone because my mother sends me a message every year. It was my dad's birthday. This is the first year that I didn't text him. I didn't call him. In fact, the best thing in the world happened. As soon as Mom sent me the reminder, which she has done forever, they've been divorced for 1,000 years. She sends my brother and me a reminder every single year. The best thing that happened was she sent me a note right after and she goes, I'm sorry. You told me you're past all of that. There's no reason for me to put that on your screen. Used to, I would talk about how my father hurt me, how he made me feel I didn't deserve, how he was the problem, he was the boogeyman. Oh my God, I got so good at it. He was to blame for every damn thing that ever went wrong in my life. Got to where I could blame. He was a wonderful catch-all for things. Something's wrong, put it in the dad file. It was the easiest thing in the world to do. I got to a point, my brother was the one who had hounded. He always thought he was supposed to be the peacemaker. Shane, you need to call dad. Why? You need to make up with dad. Why? You need to go. I lived over his Harley shop for 8 years. What more can I do? Finally, I decided I'm not doing anything else. I quit. The only thing that hurts me is the trying. He can't get okay with me being gay, uber religious, whatever, fine. I got to a point where instead of resentful, I don't care what he did, I got to where I actually didn't care. I let go. The only way I did that was I went back in my mind to the exact moments where he hurt me. I went back to those exact conversations in my head. I went back to the exact things that had caused me the resentment of my father all these years. Instead of holding them here and suffering for 40 some odd stupid years with it, I grabbed hold of it and pulled it right in here and looked in the eye. I was like, well, yeah, and that's what it is. That's the reality. And didn't try to tack onto it. Oh, he never did love me, but he should. No, there's no should have. All there was he didn't. Oh, I'm tacking all that other stuff onto it. What there was just, that's what he was capable of. That's who he was. That's all there was. Okay. Oh, okay. And I let it go. I couldn't let it go if I didn't grab hold of it. I mean, think about what I'm saying. Let go. You can't. Let go. Whole lot easier. And until you do that, you're never going to get the belief part right. Never, ever going to get the belief part right. Now, but what you do, finally, about an hour into this, finally got to get to the stuff that anybody's here for. What you do falls into a couple different categories. Some of them are very fun. We're going to talk about the less fun ones first. Want a new job? Send out your damn resume. Oh, I am not kidding. Do you know how many people I've had in my office through the years? I'm trying to manifest the perfect job. What's your resume look like? Huh? You honestly think somebody's going to show up and knock on your door and offer you a job? I'm not saying it won't happen. In fact, I used to say it won't happen in workshops, and I swear to you, every time I would, something would literally show up at my doorstep just to prove me wrong. And so it can happen, not very likely. What is the step you're taking? What's the action you're taking? I believe in manifesting opportunities. I believe in physically taking those opportunities. You want love in your life, and you figured out what love means to you and what it's actually going to look like and what that person would be like and all that sort of stuff, and they show up in your life, that does not make a relationship. You got to go out with them. You got to talk to them. You got to build some stuff here. You're going to pow chicka pow pow. You got to get everything going, or it's not a relationship. So you got to get to where you're allowing yourself to take the action on it. Ken, years ago, leading into this sort of stuff, he shows up at the house. This is when I worked out the house, that house I was just talking about. And I shouldn't laugh because he was in a dead panic, and I was like, what? You know, at first I was mad because I was like, you don't show up without calling. And it was like, oh dude, you're really freaked out. What's going on? We're gonna lose the house. By we, he meant him, his wife, and his 2 kids. I said, what the hell's going on? He said, well, we're behind on our rent. How much money do you need? $5,000. I was like, dude, what are you thinking? He said, can you help? Yes, I can help. Running through the house, gathering stuff up. I end up with a candle, all this sort of stuff, barbecue lighter. I sit him down, I talk to him, crash course of what we're talking about here. Why do you want this? To save my family so we're not in the street. Pretty good motivation. Big emotion. That's a lot of emotion. We can use that. That's big energy. We can direct it out where we want to go. Got him candle, got the words, got him focused, all of this. I said, now light the candle. You've got to expect it to work. You've got to expect that money's coming. You've got to absolutely believe this beyond anything else. Light that candle. Honest to God, he's like this. Lights the candle. He looks at me and he goes, now what? And I said, get out of my house because it's not here. Go do something. Go get out there. Go do. He's like, do what? And I said, do everything you already decided you're going to do today. You had a plan of what you're going to do to remedy stuff. Go do that, but the whole time you're doing it, I want you looking in the ditch for a bag of money. I want you to expect somebody to walk up and hand you a winning lottery ticket. I want you to have in your head that it's just going to work. He had a job interview. He went to the job interview. He walks in. The guy slams down the phone. You know exactly what you want at the beginning of the interview. And looks at him and goes, my son. And Kim's like, all right, what about your son? So freaking irresponsible. Called me up wanting $5,000. Can you believe that? Ken goes, do you still have the $5,000? He goes, what kind of question is that? Ken told him the story. He left with a job and a check. The guy gave him a $5,000 sign-on bonus. He saved the house. He took action. He took action with expectation. His action in no way was a thought-out logical plan of how to make it work. He walked in, the guy's like, my damn son. He's like, you still got the $5,000? Well, of course he does. He didn't give it to the son. He just asked for it, and it was there. I manifest stuff into my life all the time. My grandmother Knox, one of the greatest spiritual lessons, would take us to Piccadilly Cafeteria. You guys remember Piccadilly Cafeteria? Heritage Cafeteria was the other one. And she would start out with this great speech. It's a cafeteria. You can have anything you want so long as you ask for it. That stuck with me. I have no problem asking the universe for what I want. I have no problem asking people for what I want. I have no problem communicating what I want. It all exists somewhere anyway. Somebody's enjoying it. Why not me? That candle that we talked about with Ken is the stuff that we're going to get into next. Well, we've got to talk about beyond our intentions. There's one more limiting thing that I need to talk about. Such a drag. It's always such a drag. Karma. Yeah, I know. It'll get you every time. The only reason I put karma in this talk is because if you're trying to manifest something that goes against your soul's purpose, good luck. If you're not aware of your karma, I love when people hit me with this. It's like, well, my God, how do I know what my karma is? Look at your damn life. Well, whatever's going on, what keeps repeating, whatever shows up every 30 minutes, whatever it is that you keep saying you've dealt with that you haven't, and it shows up again, that's your karma. That's your stuff. You don't have to look for it. It's found you 12 times today already. You don't have to figure out what it is. You just have to be honest about what it is. And when you look at that and you try to create outside of that, not going to happen. Sometimes it's because of a karmic debt that we owe, because we actually come into this lifetime with certain conditions about our lifetime. We may have an illness that we're meant to have the experience of going through karmically. We may be stuck in a financial state that we're in because of our karma that's there. Beyond all that, we need to think about our karma being the idea of learning the lessons. And really, if you go to the Sanskrit word, I love debunking stuff. Karma does not mean that what you do will literally happen to you. If I poke you in the eye, that doesn't mean in some future lifetime you're going to poke me in the eye back. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, the Bible gets it pretty close. Live by the sword, die by the sword. How you live is how your life will be. That's where we started. How you express yourself is what your experience in your reality will be. If you're a lying, cheating, conniving person, and you're putting out there that the universe should give you a lucky break because you're such a swell individual, part of you is calling bullshit on that. There's a part of you in your mind that doesn't believe that. No matter what you're saying, you don't believe that. I'm not saying people don't deserve. We've already covered the bare worthiness thing. But the idea of if you don't live up to your own moral code, then a part of you is not going to think that you deserve the universe giving you an opportunity or a break. You're not going to believe that that's possible. So looking at your karma is really a matter of being honest with what it is you put out into the universe. You heard me saying, I'm not afraid to ask people for stuff. This entire studio has been built on donations and help and the next opportunity and me bartering things out. I about got the lights worked off this next round. We've always got something going on to make it happen here. But the reason that I have no shame in my game about that whatsoever, I do for people constantly. I will do for total strangers. I'll help anybody I can. I have in over 40 years never turned anybody away because of money and don't plan on starting now. I try to live that energy. I never ever worry about being stuck alongside the road because I won't leave somebody stuck alongside the road. And so I just have no fear of it. And so we've got to get to where we're thinking about our karma. What are we putting out there in general? Not what's the big intention, what's the big expectation, what's the spell we did, what's the vibrational zappy thing we did, but getting down to what is that actual energy that I'm imprinting out into this world. So I want to, I want to hit one more thing, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get all the fun stuff. We're talking about borrowing emotion. I want to talk about the placeholders. That's the one thing that I didn't hit really strongly. A placeholder to me, and give you a really good one, when you want the new house, but you don't have the new house, pack up an entire room. Every time you walk by it, your entire subconscious mind is going, oh, we're moving. I'll be glad when I can unpack that in the new place. You're creating a placeholder for what it is that you want to happen. When Mom did the $1,000 check, the check itself was a placeholder for what it is that she was wanting to occur, to happen. When I was doing the church, when I was saying I was wanting to manifest church, I have kept an altar at my house for a very long time. And some of you are familiar with the Spirit Message book that I wrote. I took it and I was like, well, we're going to be a church. We've got to have our version of the Bible. I guess we'll use Spirit Messages. And so I set up on my altar a little place and I opened it up with a candle above and I was like, well, and there's the church. And because I'm very into Thor, I put a hammer on it because we're going to build a church, whether symbolically or literally or whatever. Those are the placeholders for what it is that we wanted. If we're thinking that we're going to get that amazing new job that's going to require us to dress business professional and our entire wardrobe is business casual, we should go out and buy that fancy outfit and put it on and look at ourselves in the mirror and think about how we expect to be wearing that to work, because why wouldn't we? That's why we bought the damn thing. And getting to the point where we've got a placeholder for what it is we want to manifest. I love my Jeep. I love being able to say this. Very shortly, I'm going to pay my Jeep off. What a satisfying feeling. You know how hard it is not just go buy a brand new Jeep? You got that thing paid off, it's worth a fortune. I could take it a great trade in. Not going to. If I was, the first step that I would do would be to either go to a toy store or get online and find a toy Jeep that looked exactly like what I wanted. So that when I went out to actually buy it, the one that was exactly what I wanted would already be there. Because that little bitty Hot Wheels or the model or the image I pulled up online or the whatever, that would be the deal. I would already have had the placeholder for what the universe, there's no way they can mistake it. This is what I want, universe. The placeholder allows it to be there. And that can be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You could actually take an object. I'm going to use this lighter as my placeholder. Probably doesn't make as much sense, but so long as you dedicate it and you can believe it, that's fine. I want to take just a real quick break. There's bathrooms right across the hall there. It's not so crucial as it used to. Used to they get mad at me if I made them sit in the old chairs for very long, but these are a little bit better. But let's take just a minute, stretch our legs, and we'll get in and work on the energetic practice of that. Let's get into the stuff that matters. Now, there's one little piece that will make all the rest of this make sense. I talk about this in my Development of Intuition workshop. You have to ask yourself which sense you're the strongest in. Which sense do you relate to the most? Because we talk about borrowing emotions, those sorts of things. We all also process things differently through our sensory state of being. There's a simple test I give everybody in the other workshop. We're going to do it right here. You can do it on your own. Fill out the blanks later. The first question is, how would you describe your own home? Like if you write down a sentence or two, how would you describe your own home? And you're going to write down whatever your description is. And then I would ask you to describe this experience so far today. Not necessarily the space, it can include the space. How would you describe your experience here? I'll shortcut it. If you were to talk about your home and say, well, here are the colors and it looks like this and you can see through the window. If you're using visual words, then your strongest sense is visual. If you're like, it's a comfortable place that feels loving and nurturing, then you're an empath because you're talking about the emotions with it. If you're talking about the feeling, that would be more empathy. And if you're very literal, it's a square ranch house that has a blah, 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 then you are a claircognizant. You're one of those people that just knows. It's very linear thinking, very triggered. One of the ones, I'll give you a dramatic difference here. If your first thing in describing this experience is, God, he's loud, then you're auditory. If your other thing was, wow, I kind of like this shirt, it was colorful, you're visual. The way that you normally talk, the way you normally explain your world, the way you normally interact with the things around you, that is your dominant sense. You're not limited to that sense. We're not trying to shut other stuff out. We're trying to figure out how to up our game to where we've got the most punch that we could possibly have. So we figure out which one we're the strongest in that regard. I'm a claircognizant. A lot of my descriptions are just very matter-of-fact, plain old direct. Everybody's like, wow, I expected you to be a lot more flowery. Unless we're talking flowers, no. So we've got to get to where we can deal with whatever our natural sense is, whatever our strongest quality is in that regard. Now, once we've done that, we want to start bringing in the way to amplify that expectation that we're putting out there. Our foundational belief is everything is energy. We've decided we're going to use an emotion to help define what it is that we want. and we're going to figure out what the expectation is that we're putting together, and by bringing those three things together, then all we have to do is pour enough energy into it that we can make it become reality. We can make our imprint bigger than everything that isn't our input. Gravity doesn't have to work. The problem is that you can't outbelieve 8 billion people. They all think you're going to stick to the earth, so you are. The day that you outbelieve all of them, you'll start floating. It's just the way it works. So we've got to get to the point where we think, how do I pour energy into whatever it is? We're going to start out super basic. I'm going to take you through different practices. We're going to start super basic. This would be for more of our tactile. This would be for more of our empaths. And the fun part is you guys get to join me in this one. You should have a string. I would like to go on record, just to let you know exactly what kind of asshole I am. I gave Jan this set of strings and said, everybody needs one on their clipboard. Wouldn't tell her why. The whole time she's been wondering, why does everybody need a string? Wouldn't tell her. Why would I? That takes the fun out of my day. The string is because in any work of magic, manifestation, I'm going to use these terms interchangeably, we have to have our environment. I'm going to use colorful words because I'm a colorful person. We need our witch's cauldron. We need our shaman's bowl. We need our place setting for what's there. At home, when I do actual spells or big intentions of sorts, I have a silver platter that I'll construct the whole thing on because I believe the universe should give me what I want on a silver platter. I actually put that much meaning into every little piece of it. So this string is either you or your world, depending upon what you're trying to manifest. So let's all go with something simple. Let's start basic. What is something you would like to draw into your life? What is something that you would like to manifest into your world? So the string becomes either you or your world. And the idea is we need to build our energy. One of the ways we build our energy is by building our focus. One of the ways that we build our focus is by staying engaged in something. You want to take a master class in it? Learn to crochet or knit and hold a single thought the entire time you're doing it, and you'll be able to knit anything into existence that you ever wanted. Got everybody thinking now. Knot magic. All you do is tie knots. All you're going to do is start at the top. Well, let's hear. I'm going to use this same example over and over and over. I've decided, it sounds like a joke, but I'm serious. I've decided that I really like $100 bills. They're my favorite. I've decided to start a collection of them. I think everybody should collect something. I think we should all have a hobby. I've decided I'm going to collect $100 bills. And so I've decided that I'm going to take this, and every time I tie a knot in it, I'm expecting another $100 bill to come into my life. Now, it wouldn't have to be a $100 bill. This could be bringing the perfect person into your life after you figured out what that represented and meant. That could be you bringing that job into your life. Just so we're clear, it's $100 bills. And we're just going to keep tying these. Now, the reason that this has any significance, people say, this is not building a big energy. This is pretty slow motion stuff here. If you're an empath, if you're somebody that your feelings, your tactile sense needs to be stimulated, this is going to be perfect for you, because by the time you're done, you're going to have this string of knots you can go back and play with and feel, and every time you touch them, it's bringing that thing into your life. And if you get creative about it, you can start adding words to it, where you're every knot. I now bind to me greater wealth and abundance. I now bind to me the perfect love of my life. I now bind to me the understanding to let go of my childhood traumas. Whatever it is that we're trying to manifest. And we tie knot after knot after knot after knot. And if you do it, you can keep going until you actually end up with just this big knot. Like you keep tying it back into itself, you end up with this ball that's just this whole knotted up thing. And what you've done is spent literally hours focusing on what it is that you want. And then when you're around your real religious folk and they ask what you're doing, you can say, don't worry, it's not magic. I knew she would. I got the actual verbal giggle out of Jan. I was hoping on that one. The next thing going into this environment, this space, And I'm going to show you the very fancy one. I'm going to tell you why it's so fancy. And I want you to know you could use a styrofoam bowl. You could use a Tupperware. You could use your favorite cereal bowl. In fact, if you have a favorite bowl, it is the one I would use. This is my shaman's bowl. Shaman's bowl is very traditional. The reason that we have a bowl is because it represents our environment. This represents the womb of creation. We put with it the rattle, phallic symbol. We take the female energy and the male energy and we birth something into existence. That's our form of manifestation. But the bowl itself would be the same as I said about the string. It could represent my own body. Like this past week, I've been fighting a lot of sickness. I might fill that bowl up with herbs, or I might take the medicine that the doctor gave me and put it in there as a symbol of what I'm wanting. And then it's charged up. I like using a rattle because it's very traditional shamanic. They're also loud. And like I said, I like noise. And so that gives me a way to focus that energy. Side note on rattles. We're at the house one night hanging out, possibly having a few drinks. And I go back into my office and there's a Thor action figure. Thor right here, I love Thor. Thor's there and I'm like, oh my God, we haven't had anything Thor. I take the action doll, take it into the living room, set it up on the mantle, and I grab my rattle and I'm like, I call Thor back into our life, and I'm like, that should do something. I have witnesses. The next day, one of my yoga teachers that works with Rescue One called me and said, we've got a German Shepherd that's come in that has to join your pack. We're going to waive all the fees. We're going to skip everything. I'm going to bring him to your house. You have to have him. His name is Thor. The day after shaking a rattle at a Thor doll, Thor came to live with us and is still at my house today. When we have our vessel, it's not exactly the same as the place setting. So I was collecting this, right? So I'm going to get now, it doesn't have to be the literal thing. I could get Monopoly money. I have a great story about manifesting stuff with Monopoly money once. But you take your placeholder. Now I have put the symbol of what I want into that bowl. Physically, put a placeholder into that bowl. It could be anything. Depends on what you're making. If you're trying to manifest the love of your life, get a little heart. Get a ring that represents commitment. Get a garnet that represents love. Find something that represents what it is that you're wanting. And then when you do that, I've got my placeholder in my environment, in my space, in my feminine cauldron of creation. Now I'm going to take an emotion and put in there as well. We got to borrow the emotion, so we're going to take it. I can't physically put the emotion in there. That is purely a mental exercise. Just because we're doing share moment, last time I did this workshop, I used that same placeholder. The memory I'm going to use is that at the end of that workshop, one of my clients walked up and said, okay, now you have two, and literally handed me a $100 bill, just because I was manifesting that as my thing. And just like, okay, I'll Brian the bump, here you go, here you go. So I'm going to draw that memory because that's a feel good. Not that that's what I'm expecting to happen again, that was the feel that was there. I remember when I had done it before, it was the same feeling that I had from a birthday when I was a kid. It was so corny, but it's only the same age. You remember the single player phonograph, record player, that the entire top of it came off as a case? The entire top of this thing came off. It had the little thing, and I remember it had the little 45 disc and all that, and oh God, I always wanted one, and I got one, and that was my big memory and everything, and then that happened. So I'm taking those memories, I'm taking those feelings of getting what I wanted, just being gifted to me. Didn't have to work for it, didn't have to do anything, just was there. I'm going to put that in. Then I'm going to build that energy. If I was a physical person, I might play with it, or I might put rice or beans or something in that bowl that I could actually move around and have some energy get in and play with in that regard. Get some clay and construct something in that regard. If I was somebody who was very sensual in regards to taste and smell, I might put together an incense or get a scented candle and put with it or something of this nature. I'm a loud person. I'm going to sit there and build that energy towards what it is I want the entire time, knowing that I'm not just worth it, that the universe is running behind me because I should have got my stuff by now. Why wouldn't I? and holding that absolute expectation. That would be one way of charging that up. Same bowl could have a candle in it, same bowl could have a crystal in it, same bowl could have nothing in it except for your words, your thoughts, your intentions. How do you build the energy towards what it is that you're wanting there? The shadow board is another one, and I'm going to talk about an entirely different approach here in a certain regard. This is an image, the long story, but it's an image that represents a spirit guide that I'm working with right now. And I walk what's called a 7-direction path. And those 7 directions, the 4 main ones are the cardinal directions that have to do with the elements. The feathers are air, the amethyst is earth, this candle would be fire, and I love it. This is a cup of water. When people are like, what's the secret? This is a Dixie cup of water. The element we're going for is water. Say it with me, water. And people are always, what is the special shell that I need? Can I get a piece of black coral? No, you can get a cup of water. Something fancy? Fine. If you use a shell, please put some water in it. I don't know why people don't do that. I got a shell. It's dry. We're going for water. That's a 30-year-old feather fan that was made for me by another shamanic practitioner that has the feathers of one of my deceased birds that's buried on my mother's property. That's a Dixie cup of water. I'm using them in the same spell. I'm using them in the same place. It does not matter to me in the least. So the reason that I have this one, that one was a gift from my mother many, many years ago. This Jan found in the file cabinet just before the workshop. This is a shadow board that I created. It's a Ouija board with an intention board on the back of it. And the reason that I like mentioning the Ouija board part of it is it has every letter of the alphabet. That means that anything that I want to bring into existence, we actually can spell. We can spell out anything that we want. Everything that is there is contained within the alphabet. I put these elements there because they're the elements of creation. Air, earth, fire, and water combined. Earth and water are considered to be feminine elements, and they travel east to west, like our horizon of the earth plane. Fire and air are masculine energies, and they intersect in this way. So by doing that, we have the feminine intersected by the masculine. Makes a cross, which is pretty cool. It also represents that sacred union of the masculine and feminine that causes birth to be there. Then I take the symbol of my spirit guide and I put there because I'm asking in this one for my spirit guide to lead me to what it is I'm wanting. Instead of the idea of drawing it to me, take me to it. And I'm going to share with you a real life story that involves this. We recently did the trip to Mexico. Some of you probably saw online. We went to Riviera Maya. And for months before that, I had done an incantation. I think incantations are very powerful. Incantations don't have to be special. They typically rhyme. And it's because you can really get into it energetically as they rhyme. You can get that rhythm and that flow and everything going. Full disclosure, I adapted this one from the TV show Charmed. They had one that was to spell to call a lost witch. The words were perfect if you changed it to shaman. It was everything that I wanted. Calling the powers of the shamans to me, right? So I did this for months before going to Mexico. We get to Mexico. We had just gotten off of the plane and settled, and we're supposed to have this ceremony where the local shamans are going to bless the entire group, right? Pretty cool stuff. I'm thinking, how cool. I get to get blessed instead of doing a blessing. I had taken a new drum for the thing, and I'm playing with my new drum down by the beach before everybody else gets there, and the shaman's setting up his altar and everything, and he goes, why do you have a drum? I said, well, I'm the shaman with this group. He immediately says, oh, okay, you help us with the ceremony. I got to practice alongside the Mayan shamans. Not just get blessed by, I got to participate with them. I did an incantation for months about drawing the shamans to me, and it took me to them. But I ended up literally working with shamans, being shown other tools, other techniques. What they do is the same as what I do. They do it different. I got the chance to see and experience all that. It went literally along with what I'd been putting out just in this little rhyming thing I had in my head that I would repeat over and over. Every time I lit an incense at home, I would say it. Every time I lit a candle at home, I would say it. I would sit and I would contemplate it. I would put it out there. It wasn't planned. This wasn't scripted. I didn't know it was going to happen. It was the extra, aha, cool, amazing thing that happened on the trip for me. It matched completely with what it is that I had put out there. And in that, the physical action, I didn't know this, the physical action was setting up the retreat. Had I not done that, none of that would have happened. And so that was the physical action that I took to put behind it. So when we get into our symbols, this one I put together just because I wanted you to get that you don't have to have an altar. You don't have to have anything fancy. Like, let's dumb this down to the greatest degree. You're sitting at Wendy's. You got your little cup for the water. You go and get your little ketchup thing, and you're going to fill it up with salt so that you've got earth. Now you've got a water and you've got an earth. Then you're going to take the straw and set it up here because wind blows through a straw. Now you've got your air. All you need is fire. If you can find a match, if you can take something, they've got a hot sauce. You know, if we have to go next door to Taco Bell and get an El Diablo sauce and put in that space, that's fine. I brought this for that very reason. I think everybody should have some sort of a rock or something that looks like this because you don't always want to leave an open flame going somewhere. And this looks like fire, so I can easily trade this out for it, and I've got my element of fire there, just like I did before. None of those things matter except that we want to be able to build that energy. And the time I'm taking to do this, the focus I'm taking to do this, that's what's building the energy. The entire time I'm bringing that emotion in. That same trip, when we got off the plane, there was literally a guy holding a gold eagle. That's the name of the spirit guide. I got to see that, connect that, take it deeper into it. Now you're starting to layer things. Now you're taking this meant something, and I'm borrowing that emotion, and here's my placeholder, and here's the energy I'm putting behind it. And you're realizing, going back to the very first statement, it's all just a part of your expression. All you're doing is expressing your energy out more fully to a louder degree. You're literally trying to overpower the vibration around you so that yours is what's happening instead of what was going on anyway. There are two different schools of thought, or two different approaches, would be a better way to put it. One is called high ceremonial magic. I hope one of you is. I hope one of you is a high ceremonial person because I find it fascinating to study your brain. High ceremonial is you need this particular essential oil, and it needs to be this particular phase of the moon, and we've got to have that particular crystal, and these are the right words to say, and this is the prescribed methodology of what you're supposed to do to make the thing happen. Imagine how much energy you would build if you did all that. I'm going and I'm picking that herb under the full moon, and I'm seeking that particular type of amethyst, and I'm finding the bowl that's got the exact color I'm supposed to have. That's a lot of energy. You're putting a whole lot of focus and intent and energy into it, and by the time you do that, boom, whatever you send out there is going to be a big old imprint. Your expression is going to be giant because you took all that time doing that. Now we can talk about the way I practice. I practice what's called chaos magic. Everything is in chaos, everything's in flux, nothing is permanent, everything's changing, and all I got to do is shove it the direction I want it to go. And if I shove it hard enough, it'll land over there. And I shove it the hardest by having my vibrational integrity in line. I have what I think, what I say, what I do, what I believe, all in line. I have a placeholder so the universe can't mistake what I want. I've got the emotion loaded up that's going to make it happen, and I'm pouring some energy into it. You should have a page there, I think. The practices. Affirmations. Ooh, let's go through these real quick. Affirmations. We all have to agree, or dear God, I hope you do. Pop culture has had us to where if you don't word it the certain way, it's not going to happen. If you don't word your affirmation presently, if you say you want something, all you're doing is creating want. I think that's a load of garbage. I think we should all go to the idea that the universe isn't a dumbass. I think they know what we need. I think if we can get it down to what are emotions, what do we really want out of it, what's the part that really matters, how do we want to feel when we manifest that thing, I think we take every bit of it out of there. I think the universe knows what we want. I think they know how we want to feel. I don't think the universe is trying to trick us because we got the wording wrong. I think that we've got to have a little bit more faith than that. So affirmations, the key is to repeat them and repeat them and repeat them and repeat them and repeat them. I once did an affirmation about, I draw to me limitless money from unlimited sources. Sounds pretty open-ended, doesn't it? I ended up getting a job at a place called Pets Unlimited. my paycheck actually came from an unlimited source. It was right there in the name. Said it right on the check. It was not an unlimited amount, but it did come from an unlimited source. Literally the words that were there. But I don't think we've got to worry about the universe tricking us. It's the repeating of it. I got a job once. I was a valet for Hammond's at the office building many years ago. And I wrote an affirmation every single day about how I worked 3 to 11, made $1 an hour more than I did at that time, had no direct supervision, and worked with 10 or less people. And I wrote that over and over and over. I mean, probably 5,000 times. I got a promotion. They made me a security guard. Moved me over to the office building. I supervised the cleaning crew after hours. There were 10 of them. I had a radio because I had no direct boss. They were in the other building. I talked to them through a walkie-talkie. I got $1 an hour raise. I worked 4 to midnight. I missed it by an hour. Seriously, everything that I wrote 5,000 times came into being. My mom used to keep a wish bowl by the side of her bed. That's what she called it. She'd write her affirmations down, and every night she'd get them out and read them and put them back in the bowl so they were in her head before she went to sleep. Visualizations. If you are a visual person, if the way you described your house is how it looks, if the way you describe this place is how it looks, get visual. This is the deck of tarot cards. This is my favorite deck of tarot cards, aside from the one that I use for clients. This is one I use for myself personally. It's the Robin Wood deck. A lot of people would say we're trying to manifest things. Why do you need cards? That makes no sense. Each of these cards represents something. You want to have a lover in your life? There's a lover's card. You want to have love in your life? There's a love card. You want to have a legitimate partner in your life? There's a card for that too. They're not the same card. I'd recommend getting all 3 of them. Find what it is that you want that's represented within the tarot. Allow that to become your visual. Go and get that toy that I talked about that represents exactly what you're wanting so you can see it. If you're an artist, paint into being what it is you want. Don't think you have to be an artist. Draw a stick figure of what you want. The universe isn't trying to grade you. They're not rewarding you on how good your art is. It's the time you're taking to do that. Remember that Afghan I was talking about making? And here you spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours putting energy into it while holding the same thought. Same idea there. Vision boards are great. You know the problem with vision boards? People make them and they never look at them again. Well, I constructed my collage. Well, that's not going to do anything. Sit there and look at it and expect those things to be real. Look at it and pull it off of the paper and into your life. And do that by calling to it, singing to it, chanting to it, praying to it, burning candles to it, dancing for it. Do something to generate it into being. Sympathetic magic is what we just talked about. Where you find a placeholder, you find something that represents the object of what you're wanting to manifest into your life. Don't think that everything we want to manifest is about bringing things in. Sometimes we want to manifest things out of our life. We want to send things away. I got called in on an abusive relationship once. A friend of mine who was a practicing witch said, I need some backup, big energy. Can you come help? I said, what are we doing? He said, her boyfriend hits her. I said, why is he still the boyfriend? And she goes, I'm working on that part, but I need you to help me get this to stop. Fair enough. I said, what's his name? Kendall. I know you asked me to be the backup, but man, have I got an idea for you. We went to Toys R Us and we got a Ken doll for Kendall. And we got a skein of red crocheting thread. We bound that sumbitch up real good. Gave her the doll. We said, now go put it somewhere that you would never ever go on your own. She threw him down a storm drain. He showed up. Got in there, and before we'd left, we said, don't worry. If he shows up, the phone will ring, and there won't be anybody there, and you'll know you're okay. He shows up, starts his shit, phone rings. He picks it up, nobody's there. He starts yelling at her, phone rings. Picks it up, nobody's there. Third time, no shit. He looks at her and goes, you and your friends did this, didn't you? And left, and she never saw him again. I have a story about the evil Richard in my life. I had a stalker person who wouldn't leave me alone. We put him in a Ziploc bag. I blessed him. This would be loophole magic. I blessed him with everything he could ever want in his entire life, except for me. I literally made a bundle with smudge. This is everything you could ever want in your life, except for this is me. I'm over here. Bundled up, called my friend Deb, so I need you to get rid of this thing. I'm never touching it again. She gets there, this is no shit. She comes in, she goes, I'm going to need a sacred Ziploc. I'm not touching it either. Turns the baggie inside out, takes it. Next call I get, I'm standing on the bridge. Richard's going into the water. I can see him floating away from you right now. 20 minutes later, Richard called me and said, I realize you're never going to feel about me the way I feel about you. I guess I should just leave you alone. Never heard from him since. Sometimes what we're manifesting is removal, subtraction. You want peace of mind? Why wouldn't you manifest the removal of everything that causes you distress? I guarantee you that most people would have said that I was working towards gaining health. No, I wasn't. I was sick as shit. I was trying to get rid of illness. My mind could not get to drawing in good. I could not think about positive. That's not where my mind was going. I wanted rid of the crud. And so all of my intention was about manifesting its departure, manifesting it leaving, manifesting it being gone. Now I'm on the other side of it. I'm manifesting health. But we've got to take the things in the way that we can emotionally relate to and respond to them. I wanted to take us through another example just because I want to get the idea of literally building energy. And you might decide to take your little knots up again while we're doing this. Think about something you want. Think about what it was you wanted already. We don't have to do anything fancy. That's the other thing I want you to get. Ceremony, ritual, I love it. I'm a shaman. You want to put together a big old ritual? We can have 75 steps of it. I will make the Catholics jealous for how many steps we put into it. I don't think we need to, though. Yes. I say simple because I know you all have a gong, just like this in your home, right? Catch the symbology. It all keeps doubling up on itself, and most people would not even catch this part. You see the bowl? You see the round feminine symbol? See the phallic symbol, the masculine? These, no different. We've got the same symbology. We've got the same stuff going there. So in thinking about it, all you're doing, borrow an emotion, clear idea of what we want, think it, see it, feel it, know it, whatever. Decide what we need to change in our mind to be able to think and do and process and all that. Here's how we build the energy. Ooh, that'll be great because that's actually the microphone. So you start by thinking about what you want. Then you start to add that emotion into it. You start thinking about how the idea that there's nothing we're creating, it already exists. All we're doing is taking the energy that's coming from this sound and this vibration. We're channeling it through that expectation and through that borrowed we don't have giant gong at the house. I'm willing to bet that every single one of you got a stereo. Why would you not crank that up and dance around your house building the energy for what it is you want? Why would you not just have a little party about the fact you're getting whatever it is that you've set as your expectation? Why would you not take and build? You do the same thing. Building energy, chanting, singing, allowing yourself to dance, to move. One of the best spells you'll ever do, bake a loaf of bread. Give every single one of the ingredients a meaning. This flour represents what I'm manifesting, and this yeast represents that emotion that I've borrowed, and this milk or water or whatever represents the energy that I'm pouring behind it. And while I'm kneading it, I'm putting that expectation of everything that I want into it. And then I'm going to allow it to rise, because that's going to take time and focus, and I have to go back and look at it. I've got to put it in my pan, and I've got to prepare. I want it to look just like a score at the top, just the way it's supposed to be. Then I'm going to bake it. Oh, that's right. I can smell it. I want it. It's got me emotionally involved in it. And then I'm going to cut into it. I'm going to take a bite, and I know that I'm going to be taking into myself the very thing that I'm manifesting. I'm making it a part of my own self. And you get bread. Work with me here. So every time you're cooking, every time you make a meal, why would you not turn that into a ritual? Why is it that you wouldn't, I say all the time, scramble eggs or scramble eggs for God? It's up to you. These strings are also handy because you can take the thing that you're working with. You can actually bind it to a candle. The reason that candles are used in this kind of work so much, you've got wax and string that are being converted into light and heat. It literally is one form of energy transforming into another. It is the symbol of every single thing we're doing. And it holds the thought the whole time it's burning. It holds the expectation of what you put on it. Now, here's our crash course. There's a whole candle workshop we do. See that thing on the bottom? That's a warning label about your house burning down. Take it off the candle before you bless it and light it for intention. This is not what we're trying to manifest. Get rid of that shit. I like the big jar ones, the Catholic prayer candles, the big tall jar ones. You can take a Sharpie marker and actually write on it what you want. It'll stick to the outside of it. A lot of times we have a candle going in my house just like that, written on it what it is that we want. So those are just a crash course. Find your sheets here that have the blanks. We're not going to take the time, we're going to run through this. What do you wish to manifest? And I put on my page, and why, and what matters about it. And so you decide what it is that you're actually wanting to manifest, and you put it down on that piece of paper. Here's what I want, here's why I want it, and when you're asking the why you want it and all of that, what it is might just change. And be prepared to adapt. Don't get stuck on, I want this thing because it's what I want. If you decide you wanted a new car and you realize you just want people to see you a certain way, realize there's a bunch of different ways to get people to see you. Doesn't have to be a car. The car doesn't have anything to do with it. In fact, if it's about how you want people to see you and you end up getting the car, you still won't feel it because you haven't addressed what it is you're actually wanting. You've got to manifest to fit whatever the actual need or desire is. After we've got that, what thoughts do you have to adjust for this to work? Sometimes we have to, everybody's very comfortable with adjusting up. I need to think I'm worthy. I need to think I'm deserving. I need to think that I should have these things. We all think about adjusting up. Sometimes you need to adjust down. If you decide that you're going to become the CEO of Apple, no, you're not. If you set your expectation too high, there's a story, I'll try to make it quick. I was trying to manifest a car. Somebody asked me what kind of car I wanted. I said I wanted a red Firebird. I said, okay, do all the stuff. I did all the stuff, no red Firebird. I went back to him, I said, well, where's my red Firebird? I did all the stuff. And I said, yeah, but you don't believe you deserve it. You don't think that you can keep it up. You don't think that that'll work. You think it's bigger than you. Fair enough. I want a dark blue Volkswagen. They said, why dark blue? I said, oh no, it's mine. All the ones I made were light blue. I followed a hawk one day. I have stories that go that way. Following a hawk through country with my boyfriend who was driving. Ended up circling over a car lot in Republic. So we pulled into the car lot. First car I saw was a dark blue Firebird. We opened the hood. It had originally been light blue. They'd repainted it dark blue. The two thoughts had run into each other and had become one manifestation. Why was I suddenly able to afford it? Because I never once put in my affirmations about it being a good car. Worst car I ever owned. Door handle came off when I got it home. Worst car ever. Should have put something in about how it ran. What I wanted was a good car. What I thought I wanted was a cool car. I should have really been a lot clearer about that. And so what did I want? Why did I want it? What did I need to change? Do you need to dial up your thoughts? Do you need to dial them down? Do you need to think that maybe you don't need a 5,000 square foot house and that's the reason that you're not manifesting it? Do you realize it might be happy in a 2,000 square foot house and that'd be a whole lot easier to manifest? Or maybe it doesn't matter how many feet it is, you want a place that feels like home? And so you change the thoughts, you shift, you adjust. How can your inner and outer dialogue better reflect what it is that you wish to create? Are you talking like somebody that should have that thing? I have a wonderful Bible reference I love with that. Moses. Pharaoh's coming after us. We get to the Red Sea. I want you to imagine which one makes more sense. If he looks at it and goes, if it's not too much of an inconvenience, could you part so we could pass and not be killed by the murderous people that are behind us? It's not an imposition. No! He commands the seas to part. You say things with authority. You expect it. You speak it into being. You say it with conviction. If you're going to say it weak, don't say it. Why are you sending a weak energy out? Well, I hope I get the thing. Oh my God, stop. I demand the thing. Where's my thing? Give me the thing. Get to where you got some energy behind what you're doing, even the way you're talking about it. Inner and outer dialogue, saying you deserve it, that should be like the bare first rung minimum. What beliefs do you need to change? That's that childhood stuff. Look at the traumas, look at the hurts. Why do I believe the way I do? Why is it I feel like a liar when I say I deserve something? Why is it I feel like I'm saying the thing because everybody said I'm supposed to say it? It's not how I really feel. Go deep into that stuff. Find that. It'll change everything. What are some direct actions you can take towards your goal? And then I put a note on mine. And what's a placeholder that you can create for that manifestation to be there? You want to move? Pack some boxes. And you can have fun with it. You want a new car? Go buy yourself a nice pair of driving gloves. Who the hell uses driving gloves? But you'd be so certain of what you're doing that you knew you needed them. You begin to trick your mind into the believing of all of that sort of stuff. And then, this is where it gets good. Choose 1 to 3 energetic practices you're going to use to charge your intentions, your expectations. On that list that you've got, are you going to burn a candle? Are you going to chant? Are you going to create an incantation? Are you going to hand blend an incense and get the little charcoal disc so you can burn it as a ceremony? Are you going to beat the gong? You're going to dance naked under the full moon? What are you going to do to build up that energy? And it doesn't matter what you do because everything is energy. That's where people get it wrong. They think that there's some special thing to do. There's nothing special to do at all. There's the doing that generate the energy. Well, if this next thing does not comfortably fit you, then shame on you. Devote your next yoga class to what it is that you're trying to manifest. See what I did there? If you don't do yoga, I'm talking to you right now. You can come in and you're going to spend an entire hour. This is a great selling point for you. You're going to spend an hour shaking and sweating and wishing that the hour was done. Why don't you hold some thought about what you're wanting to create while you're doing it? Why would you generate all that energy and not put it towards something? Why are you letting your energy just off into the world and not do anything for you? We all spend a lot of energy on worry. We all spend a lot of energy on guilt. We all spend a lot of energy on regret. Get a drum. It's a whole lot more fun. Get some bell. I'm serious. Put music on and dance around your house. My mother once asked me why I quit dancing. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? She goes, you used to dance all the time. She goes, every time you get in a mood where you're going to make something happen, you'd always start dancing around. You don't dance anymore. That was her way of reminding me that I used to just spontaneously generate energy. And everybody thinks it has to be some secret special initiation that's passed on. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be any trick whatsoever. What further notes do you have for yourself to interweave all of these elements so that you're living in vibrational integrity towards your goal? You find that you're low on that inner dialogue, practice in the mirror, say the words, find that person that you can go and say those things to. You find that you don't feel like you put enough energy into it, construct a ritual, make an altar. The reason that one's sitting there and this is sitting on all the stuff, I want you to see you can literally throw stuff together. We used the Wendy's example earlier. Or you can use any objects you have in your house. I don't have prescribed tools for certain things. When I want to work on something, I start grabbing things that make me think of it. And I put them all in a pile and make it look pretty. And I say pretty words. And I light a candle or an incense. And I'll beat a drum or I'll shake a rattle or a whatever. And all of that is just building energy, but back behind it, what is the emotion that I want? What would it feel like when it works? How is that going to play out in my world? I expect that to happen. I know it's right there. Putting all those things together, and it does. I mean, I always think it sounds ridiculous if I start listing the stuff. I live in a constant state of manifestation. Constant state of here's the next thing I have in my head, here's the thing that's coming into being. It's always like that. Like I don't ever go to Walmart, but what I'm thinking about the parking spot that I'm going to get right by the door as I get in my Jeep to leave my house. And I always park right by the door. I have to be very careful about it. Sometimes I'll get burned out and decide that I don't feel like doing readings, and suddenly we don't have anybody showing up. How many people will we not show up lately? A lot. I was like, why is that happening? Oh yeah, I got kind of burned out and said I didn't really want to deal with people, didn't I? I shouldn't have said that. Oh, okay. Next week we'll be busy again. What do you want? Why do you want it? What is the emotion you're going to borrow to tack in with it? And then what practice, whether it's with sacred tools or stuff from Wendy's, what are you going to use to put energy into it behind that to manifest it? Where are you going to give it a placeholder to land? If you'll take things down to that simple, then you'll be able to manifest anything you want. I'm certain of it. I'm certain of it because several months ago I said that we were going to have a church, and that's where we are. And we didn't do anything other than what I'm talking about right now. It's a very emotional, satisfying thing. The universe knew what would satisfy that emotion. So real quick, we've got a small enough group. I don't usually do this anymore, but since we've got a small enough group, who has questions? Thoughts? Something you're working on in particular? Some piece of this that you need some pointer on that we could go into? Very good then.
I have something. It's kind of a big deal, but I was thinking about kind of changing my life and actually stepping up to get a new car, and I totaled my car out Thursday morning. A lady pulled out in front of me, and if I went in wearing a seatbelt, I probably wouldn't be here.
So one of the things that I would look at...
The universe tends to smack me in the face, like, you don't get it! You deserve a new car!
Well, and the thing that I would look at there, and I'm glad you brought this up, probably for a different reason than you're bringing it up, but this is a good thing for everybody to hear. Yes, there can be fallout from our intentions. Yes. Especially when we allow ourselves to get emotional and it's a big jump up. Sometimes we feel like we need that cataclysmic birthing experience. Birth is trauma, and sometimes we feel like we need to add that into it. We don't actually have to, but sometimes we feel like we have to. But the part I would like everybody to get from that, the reason I think that came up in here, I see a lot of people get discouraged. They'll be like, well, I put this out there, I'm trying to manifest a car, and my car, okay, great, you took a step closer. Or I tried to manifest love in my life, and man, I had this guy, seemed like he was wonderful, but we are not a match. Okay, so there was a guy, you're a step closer. And I'm one of those people that validates and will communicate to the universe like, Yeah, well, I'll even use the motorcycles. The first Harley I manifested was a Harley Davidson Softail. And it was old. It was fine, but it was old. And I literally, and this is just how arrogant I am about it, I manifested the other one because I was like, yeah, like that, but nicer. What are you talking about? I need a nicer. And my whole thing was like, yep, that's close, but no. And I want you to get to where you're not afraid to dial in what it is that you're working on. You know, okay, I'm trying to manifest a new house. I looked at the house, it's the right house, it's perfect. Oh shit, the loan didn't go through. Okay, but I found the right house. That was a piece of it. Now all I've got to do is manifest the financing. I've already proved I can manifest the house. And so we take our win where we can, and God, anybody who knows me will validate this. I don't believe in failure. I only believe in course correction. You knock me down and I will get back up and go, okay, walk that way, I get hit in the face, I'm gonna try this way. And I will just keep at it. I am not successful because I'm brilliant, I'm successful because I'm stubborn. I won't quit. Because every time I get closer, it feels a little bit more like I want. It's a little bit truer to that expectation. I put a little bit more energy on this part because that's the lacking part. Okay, it's there. Oh, I realized through this, here's the part that really matters. Well, I'm starting all over, but at least I know what I'm actually manifesting now. That's how it actually works. If you'll take those things and put it in play, you'll be amazed at the things that show up. Don't worry about how they show up, just that they're going to. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate every single one of you. If you have any questions about this, get hold of me. Let me know if you ever want to work on this stuff one-on-one. Let me know or get hold of Jan. We'll get you in for some one-on-one training stuff.